So tell me about that. Let's get into that a little bit. Give us some before we get to what you're doing today. Give us some
E-
background where you grew up and kind of, there you go. 14
Right.
years old, you left home. Tell us a little bit more.
Right. So I grew up the son of a bookmaker. My father was, a gambler, a degenerate gambler, rich and poor, but one day to the next.
Yeah.
And so I was dealing cards in a casino at age 3. I was dealing blackjack in Reno, Nevada. My uncle Funzy was was a dealer there, and it was like a novelty then. Without government invention, a 3-year-old kid in the casino was a novelty to bring people in. Yeah, I want to play against the 3-year-old kid. And they taught me all the etiquette of all that. And so, I'm happy that you're winning. You're doing well. I'm happy for you to get big tips and stuff like that. And so I was dealing blackjack at the age of 3. And, my father, I grew up at the tracks from, Florida to California and New York at a horse track the entire time, in my childhood. And then when I grew up, my father was doing when I got into my teens, he was doing, football numbers where you bet on the tickets and stuff like that. And we were up hundreds of thousands, and we're talking early 70s, up hundreds of thousands of dollars one Sunday and down hundreds of thousands of dollars the next Sunday. And so for a little kid, the pressure of not knowing where you're going to live, what's going to happen to your family and all that stuff, along with a rageful father, if he lost, it was hell. And I came home one day from 9th grade, and my mom and dad were both in jail. Not victims, but I guess suspects in a major gambling operation. And we had a federal wiretap on the phone. And they took my mother and father to jail, and my older brother, who still lived in the house, was also a criminal at the time. And they wanted to take him, and that would have left me, a 14-year-old kid with no place to go. They got out on bail, but very shortly thereafter, like a week or two after, I said, I'm out of here. And instead of getting on a school bus to go to school, I went to Eastern Airlines, and this is odd as can be now. I went to Eastern Airlines and bought a one-way ticket to Florida so I could go work in Disney World. Now, at the time, a 14-year-old kid walking into an airport was okay to buy a one-way ticket and fly. Now you couldn't get there. But so I flew to Florida, I worked in Disneyland. I was basically a missing person for a month or so while I was working in Disneyland.
You got a job working at Disney World, right? In Florida?
Yeah, Disney World, right. I was
what were you doing?
I was interning in a magic shop on Main Street, USA.
Okay.
Learning magic from a guy who was an old magician there, and he was teaching me tricks and stuff. And I was doing some sales, selling the magic kits. And so, but I was a missing person. And then when I got tracked down, the FBI came in and they wanted to, search the place for me. And that Disney was like, "What are you doing with this kid? He's too much trouble. Get rid of him." Disney didn't want any part of that publicity.
Of course.
So they threw me out. And
no FBI agents at Disneyland if you can help it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they threw me out. Make a long story short, I went to work in picking oranges to put myself through high school and living in a mobile home, a motor home. But basically a one-bedroom motor home in a trailer park. Went to night school and picked oranges during the day. When I graduated high school, the first college I applied to accepted me. I went there. It was in eastern New Mexico. I worked on a cattle ranch to put myself through school, 4 years in school. And then when I got out, I decided I didn't want any part of what I went to school for. I was going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And hit the road with a band.
The picking oranges, let's go back to that. So you go from New York, working the numbers with your dad and dealing cards, and which is fascinating in and of itself. But now you're 14, you got to get a real job, and picking oranges is a real job. Where's your mindset going? What kind of kid were you that at 14 years old, not only were you smart enough to get a job, stay in school, and find a place to live, but then the job you're getting, I mean, it's hot in Florida. It's humid in Florida. Picking oranges is about the worst job on the planet.
You bet. And I was probably one of about 400, 500 people who spoke English exclusively. Some people spoke broken English, but it was 14-hour days covered with black pesticides, going to school dirty at night, And what did I think? I cried a lot. I cried to myself in my trailer at night, like, man, what kind of life do I have? I was a bit of a crybaby, I must admit. At night when I got home, it was just like, this is a terrible existence, eating frozen pizza, fish out of a can. But I have to say, it was better than being back home in New York in the pressure cooker of the gambling situation. Everybody I knew looked up to mobsters, the Henry Hills thing. In my neighborhood, being a mobster was the ideal. It was the thing that guys wanted to be when they grew up.